Let me start by asking you something. Have you ever been in a situation when you felt like you had to fight for control? Maybe it was during a heated conversation, a tough decision at work, or even trying to manage your own emotions. We've all been there, right? Our world often tells us that power is about being louder, tougher, and more dominant. But what if there's another way? What if true strength doesn't look like aggression, but like calm, steady courage? Today we're diving into one of the most countercultural statements Jesus of Nazareth ever made. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Now, if you hear the word meek and think of weakness, stick with me. What Jesus is talking about here is anything but weak. Meekness is strength under control, a kind of quiet power that can transform your relationships, your community, and even the world. So let's unpack what it means to live meekly and why it's such a revolutionary idea. Let's start by clearing something up. Meekness is not about being passive or letting people walk all over you. The word Jesus uses here, praus in Greek, actually refers to strength that's been tamed and focused. Picture a wild horse that's been trained to respond to the slightest touch of its rider. It's still powerful, but now that power is channeled for a greater purpose. So what does that look like for us in real life? I want you to picture a firefighter rushing into a burning building. Their strength isn't reckless, it's controlled, it's intentional and directed towards saving lives. That's meekness. Not a lack of power, but power guided by humility and love. Here's your first takeaway. Meekness means letting your strength work for others, not just for yourself. I'm going to say that again. Meekness means letting your strength work for others, not just for yourself. So the next time you're in a tense moment, ask yourself, am I reacting out of pride or am I responding with purpose and grace? That's where meekness begins. Here's where meekness gets bold. It's not just about staying calm, it's about standing firm in the face of harm without returning it. Meekness is a form of courageous resistance, choosing to break cycles of violence and injustice by refusing to fight fire with fire. Think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement. He led peaceful protests against systemic injustice, knowing full well that it could cost him everything. That's the kind of courage meekness requires. Not giving up, but choosing love over hate, peace over retaliation. Here's your second takeaway. Meekness doesn't run away from conflict, but it doesn't escalate it either. I'm going to say it again. Meekness doesn't run away from conflict, but it doesn't escalate it either. It stands firm in love, trusting that God's justice is greater than our need for revenge. And let's be real. This isn't easy. The world often sees meekness as weakness, and there's a risk in choosing non-violence over aggression. But when we lean into meekness, we create space for something bigger than ourselves. Reconciliation, healing, and lasting change. Now, let's talk about what Jesus meant when he said, "The meek will inherit the earth." This isn't just about the future. It's a present responsibility. Meekness calls us to care for the earth and everything on it. It's about stewardship, living in a way that honors creation and ensures its beauty and resources for future generations. Here's a practical example. Think about your own daily habits. Are you mindful of waste? Do you prioritize sustainability? Even small changes like using less plastic or supporting ethical businesses reflect a spirit of meekness. And here's your third takeaway. Meekness isn't just about how we treat people. It's also about how we treat the world. It's a quiet strength that nurtures and protects rather than exploits. When we live this way, we're not just inheriting the earth, we're helping to preserve it for those who come after us. All right, so let's bring this home. Here's my challenge for you this week. Think of one area in your life when you feel the need for control. Maybe it's a conflict with a friend, stress at work, or even a personal goal that just feels out of reach. Instead of forcing an outcome, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what would meekness look like here? How can you respond with grace instead of reaction? How can you trust God's strength instead of your own? And if you're feeling inspired, I'd love to hear your story. How did practicing meekness show up in your week? Drop me a message or share your thoughts on social media. I'd love to connect. Let's wrap this up with one final thought. Meekness isn't about shrinking back or letting others take advantage of you. It's about showing up with courage, humility, and love. When Jesus said the meek will inherit the earth, he wasn't talking about conquest. He was talking about stewardship, building a world rooted in justice, compassion, and sustainability. So this week, let's embrace meekness, not as weakness, but as a quiet, revolutionary strength. Together, you and I can shape a world that reflects God's heart for love, equity, and care. Here's something to take with you. What would change in your life if you trusted the power of meekness this week? God of quiet strength and boundless grace, teach us the courage of meekness. Help us to let go of pride, resist harm and love, and care for your creation, all of it with gentleness. May we trust in your justice and walk humbly as we join you in shaping a world of peace and compassion. Amen.